This QDS video will build a sample CAPI survey, demonstrate it using different types of questions and responses, and then we'll look at the saved CAPI data file. Once you've completed development in the Design Studio, you'll want to build your CAPI control file. This is the file that interviewers use to administer your questionnaire. If you just need to test parts of your specifications, it's easiest to use the Preview tool. That was a new feature added in QDS version 4.0. See our video about using Preview for a full description of that feature. The CAPI module is very similar to the ACASI module. However, it has some features specifically for interviewers, and we'll highlight those during the demo. To build your control file, you're going to go to Build and then CAPI Application from the main menu, and this will open the dialog box. The default file name will be listed in the box here, and you'll notice that it has the Design Studio file name plus a language designator, which here is EN for English, plus CAPI, and the extension is .qpi. That's very important to remember that the extension for CAPI control files is always .qpi. Then you're going to want to look at any options that you might want to adjust. You can change that from the options button located here at the bottom. Notice that you can also set build options at any time in the Design Studio from the options menu. We're going to take a look at just a few key CAPI options. You'll generally want to support keyboard input, which is supported by default. It's generally a good idea to always have the Save Interviews Without Prompting option checked. And then a new option you may want to consider is to generate unique data file for each interview, and we've checked that for this demo. On the Appearance tab, you may want to check the option to show question numbers, as that can be very useful. On the Colors tab, you can update your colors displayed during the CAPI interview. We've tweaked those a little here. On the Date and Time tab, you can change the order of date components. For information on all available CAPI options, see QDS Online Help. After you've selected all of your options, go ahead and click OK, and then go ahead and save to save your control file. QDS will ask you if you want to try out the control file now. You can if you want to, or we'll show you a different way you can also start your CAPI interview. Alternately, you can also open your CAPI survey by double-clicking on the file name from Windows Explorer or similar, or you could also create a desktop shortcut to start from. Again, note that CAPI interview control files always have the file extension of .qpi, and they're of the type QDS Personal Interview Control File. CAPI will open to the first screen of the survey, which in our demo is an information element that's showing the interview date and time that's taken from the interview device. It's usually a good idea to have these recorded. They're added in the Design Studio file with automatic date and time type elements and will be saved to the data file. Then if there's a problem with the date or time on the computer, it can be corrected right away. The next item in this demo is the subject identifier, which here is a numeric item. You can enter that using the on-screen keypad or your keyboard. And then when the interview is ready to proceed, they click Next Question. You may notice that the CAPI is different from the ACASI module in that it has a menu interface that is available during the full course of the interview. From this main menu, there are several options. We'll just show those now. The first menu option is called Interview, where there's the option to start a new interview, to end the current interview, but keep CAPI open. Exit CAPI is the last option here, and that exits CAPI as well as closing the current interview. There's also a keyboard shortcut of Alt F4. There's also an option to leave a comment, which if you select that, a small notes box will open. We'll just enter a test comment, and these comments are saved as part of the data set, and they can later be exported. They're also saved to a log file, which will show you what that is at the end of the demo. There's also a tools menu. If you've added passwords in your survey, this is where you would manage those passwords. There's also options regarding displaying of probes, which is something else you can add as an option in the Design Studio. And finally, you have your general help menu. This next item on the screen is again another information element, which is just used to provide information to the respondent or interviewer without an expectation of there being a response. Our next item is a gender type item, and it uses image buttons. These can be customized for different language surveys. After we make that selection, it automatically goes forward. Our next item is a date of birth type element, and we have selected the display here so it shows month and then day and the year, and we can use our keyboard or these arrow buttons to select our response, and then we go through and select next question. This next item is a pick one, and we'll just choose our button, and once again it will go forward automatically. Now this next item is also a pick one, but this was set up differently in the Design Studio. As of QDS 5.0, you do have the option to have a pick one item as a drop down, and this is especially useful and required if you have more than 24 choices, which is the case here. So we can make a choice, or then we can decide to change that if we'd like. Our selection is shown in the box, and after we've made our selection, we'll go ahead and go to the next question. This here is a check all that apply, and we can go ahead and make our choices. And we do have an other selection here as our last choice. Now if we select that, we have set this up in the Design Studio so that we have an other specify option that comes up where we can enter a text response with the keyboard or on-screen pad, or at any time you can always go back and change your response using previous question. And now if we go forward after we have unchecked that other response, now you'll notice we have skipped over that specify, and that was all set up in the Design Studio. Next here we have another information element to alert us we have some new questions coming up that'll ask about health. And this next item is an example of a rating scale where we have numbers displayed, and the respondent or interviewer can click on the line to select their response. This was set up using a response card. You do have to use a response card if you want any of your intermediate points labeled, as we have in this example. We have worst health and best health, and then we have a moderate label in the middle. This next question is a ranking type response, and in this example we're asking the respondent to rank their top 3 activities, and to do that, they'll just click on the buttons, and as you can see, as each button is clicked, it proceeds in order from 1 to 3. Since we're only allowing them to select 3 rankings, after you select 3, then all of the buttons are grayed out. If you would like to reset it, you can always just click the clear button and make your choices again. You can also uncheck the lowest rank item and redo your selections that way. And you may notice that at least one selection does have to be made in order to go to next question. All of these that were options that were set in the Design Studio. And after you're complete, you can go ahead and select Next Question. You may also notice that if a special code was allowed, you'll see that it's enabled here in these options to the right. And for this item, we can choose Refuse to Answer. This is another Pick One. This item uses a set of responses that we're going to repeat multiple times throughout the interview, so we have set it up as a Pick One response card. So for this item, we're going to go ahead and select Refuse to Answer. You'll notice for this next item we have those same responses, again using that same response card, because these items we're going to repeat for more than one question. It's just a shortcut you can set up in the Design Studio. Next we have a yes/no question, and we have yes/no buttons with these check and X images. Again, this is like gender, where you can customize this for another language if you need to do that. For this item, we also added an optional image. You can add images on either information or data elements. You just need to have that image saved on your computer, and you'll tell the Design Studio where that image is located. And if we go ahead and say yes to that, have you ever smoked, we're going to get what's called a time span element, where it's asking how long has it been since you last smoked. And if we want to enter, say, a year and a half, we can enter 1 for year and 6 months and 0 days, and we can do that using the keyboard or these buttons. The next item we have is another numeric type element, where we can enter a responsive age for how old were you, and click Next Question. Now, just to show you again, if we were to go back using previous question, and to that cigarette question, if we had responded no, we did set up a skip in the Design Studio to skip over those following cigarette questions if we said no to that intro cigarette item. And again, that's something that's set up in the Design Studio. We have other videos that can explain to you how to set up those skip elements. And it displays a thank you to the respondent. And then after the final screen, you will see a prompt that asks if you want to connect to another interview. If you say yes, a new interview will immediately begin. If you choose no, you'll just see an empty CAPI window. And once again, you can use that interview menu to go ahead and close CAPI. To see where the saved data file from the interview is located, you'll go back to the folder that contains the CAPI interview control file. It's always going to be saved in that same folder. And now you'll notice we have 2 new files. As we mentioned earlier, we have something called a log file. If we had any interviewer comments, which we showed you in that example during the demo, they're going to be saved in this log file. They're also saved into the data set. If you don't have any comments, you're still going to have this log file. It'll just be empty. The next file you have here, you see the bottom file, is our data file. It has the extension of .qad. It is of the type QDS Automated Interview Data File. Make a note of that extension and type. And you'll notice that because we set the CAPI build option of unique interview files, it includes automatically in the renaming process the ID, which we set is 1122, and then a date and a time stamp. You may notice that the time stamp even includes seconds, so it is always going to be a unique data file name. That's very useful, or it can be, for your data management to use that particular option. That's all for this video, but to learn more about QDS data files and data management with the Warehouse Manager, see QDS Online Help or other QDS Learning videos.